What's up, everybody? Vin here. We just released our newest short horror film, and there's so much to talk about from the first version of the script to the final version that you guys saw. Without wasting any more time, we're going to take you through how we made our short film, Letters of the Dead. As always, the process started with writing, and for this one, it was really a fun process because a lot of it was based on inspiration, but a lot of it was based on the prop. Now, one day during the summer, I believe it was July, I went to the antique shop located in North Carolina that we film everything in, and this is the antique shop where I've gotten a lot of antiques that you guys have seen in other films, such as Milkman, Withered, Portmanteau, and a bunch of other ones, and this is really where I like to find my cursed objects that I create. So during the summer, we were working on a lot of other projects that you guys have already seen, but I went back to the antique store with the sole intention of finding a prop that would turn into one of the later films that we made that year, which is this film, of course. But towards the end of my visit there, I came across the Letterbox, and it really was just very eye-catching to me, because first off, I had never seen something like this, but second off, it reminded me of something I love, which is an episode of Gravity Falls. If you've seen any of the other making of videos, you would know that I like to reference Gravity Falls, and that I'm a huge fan of it, and this was one of those times where I really was inspired from the show. So there's a scene in the show where the characters come across this mailbox that is in the middle of nowhere, and when you ask it a question, it will answer it for you. And though that is not completely the premise of the film, I wanted to do something similar to that random mailbox, and the script was actually very different in the beginning than what it turned out to be. Originally, I wanted to do something where the letterbox was found somewhere, maybe in the water or maybe at the bottom of a cliff, and that's really where ideas started to come in, and luckily that cliff idea kind of stuck throughout. But ultimately, I found that this antique being found didn't work that well. There's certain things that are just not meant for the short film format, and for this one, it just didn't feel fitting to go into this huge backstory of what the letterbox is, and that's what it was starting out to be, and I just felt that it needed to be broken down and simplified for YouTube.
Why?
I think it's totally a great idea for a future version of this film where it's a longer idea, and there's so much to tell with this letterbox. There's tons and tons of lore behind it, and I have a ton more ideas for what this is going to be, but we really had to think what was going to be best for the short film format. I ended up going with the two characters who, one knows what this letterbox is, and they're trying to make this other person who doesn't know what it does interact with it. And it really turned into a game that they're playing, similar to a Ouija board, where there's friends who are playing it, and there's all this speculation about if it's real, if it's not, and there's always that one friend who knows a lot about it. And so I wanted to play into that, where there's one character who knows what this thing is that's trying to make this other person, play with it. And it really is like our version of a Ouija board in some kind of way, where it's a way to interact with the dead. Some may be good, some may be bad, but in this example, it's of course a really bad spirit. So even more changed from the writing process, and it was probably about draft 6 or 7, and there was a big shift when I decided to take it from being two girls to just a guy and the girl. The script was originally two girls who were hanging out, and they were playing with the letterbox, just fooling around, very similar to the final script, but something felt off about it to me, that the letter that they're reading didn't connect that much to them. The letter is this love story of two people being so in love that they want to die together because they're not going to have their ideal life together, but one of them slipping up and not actually doing it with them, and this other person dying because of it. And with it being two girls, it just didn't hit as hard, but when we made the switch from a guy and a girl, it really felt more fitting, as if, what is the dynamic between these characters? Is the guy crushing on the girl? It just felt more practical, and I think the dynamic ultimately worked really well. So we finally got to draft 12, which was the final version, and I don't want to get too much into how many different things changed, since it would just go on for a really long time. But the climax scene was definitely very different, where there was supposed to be an eyeball prop and it was going to be wrapping around the character, and it was cool, but it was just turning into too much VFX and stuff. And we really decided to simplify it with just that closet shot, which I think was really cool. Part of me was kind of upset that the whole film was kind of leading up to this closet part, and it's just this one shot. But I then realized that the beginning of the film is this whole really cool build-up, and there's even a climax in that mini part of it, and it really is broken into 3 parts, where it's the beginning where he's actually getting possessed. And through editing it, I felt some kind of security where I was like, okay, even though we have this climax scene that's not super crazy, we still have the really cool possession, and I think the possession carries the film a lot.
The shade of a betrayal, my head, severed, bouncing in time, and the final question resounding within it.
For the hallway shot, I'm actually the one holding the letterbox, and what we did was have me in these monster arms, and I lifted up the letterbox, and inside we had 3 tracking markers that could be then used for VFX. And then for the head in there, that is also mine. We shot this pretty simply, just over green screen. I had everything surrounding me green screen except my head, and just matched the color of that to the white hands, and added some textures and ghost eyes. And overall, I think it turned out really cool, and it's a really cool shot. During the possession, when editing it, I started to realize that it wasn't hitting as hard, because that there was no deeper tone when he was being possessed and being taken over. And so I reached out to a voice actor named Rambling Rob, who did a tremendously awesome job doing the voiceover for this. He very accurately matched Ryan's performance, and it really worked as that undertone, very deep, and it really worked because it was the spirit's voice now coming out into Ryan's character, and it really completely felt like he was being taken over, not just by his facial features changing, but by his voice changing, and I think it was super cool.
Bouncing in time with the final question resounding within it. Why? 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 Why?
As usual, the score was done by Frank, and I really wanted him to do a very classic horror feel to this and make it very string orchestral based, because that's just really what it felt like. With all the warm colors in the film, it felt super fitting to be this really raw orchestral sound, and I think it turned out awesome. Anyways guys, that's it for this one. Stay tuned because we have a very special video coming soon, which is going to be the studio tour of all the different rooms in our house that we actually make these films in, and it's gonna be a really fun one. We're trying to get you guys to know us more personally, and this one's gonna be a really cool video so you see what we're all about and how we make these films. This is the last making of the year, and we really learned so much this year, and it was such a fun time making all these films, and I'm so glad to have shown you guys so much, and I really think that this next year is going to be a great one for making films, and I can't wait to see where we get. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.
Why? 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 Why?
Whoa!